This mutation is called Foul Play, and it is being played on Oblivion Express. We have two mutators active. We have Sharing and Scaring, and we have Turkey Shoot. I'm going to talk about these mutators a little bit. These are special holiday mutators. This mutation was first released around Thanksgiving, which is why these mutators are active. We're going to talk about them just a little bit. And unfortunately, because this game is being played on the arcade, I cannot actually even show you the mastery allocations. There is a bug with certain commanders where mastery allocations do not really appear, but you can see here Apocalypse cooldown has been selected, so we have 3 points into the Apocalypse cooldown mastery. And it looks like we have also some mastery point allocations into the Infest Structure mastery, and infantry duration and mech attack speed might be a little bit difficult to see, but it may be on the mech attack speed mastery here, given the fact that Stukov has picked the Frightful Flesh Welder Prestige. And you will also notice that Stukov has no ally over here, so this is going to be a mutation solo, and I believe first time submitter over here, so thank you very much for your submissions. I did get a lot of submissions from people for this mutation, and unfortunately, because I can only do one submission per week, I only cast one game. I do try and give everybody a fair chance at getting casted. So like I said, if you have submitted to and your mutation hasn't been casted, do not be disappointed. Keep trying and try and come up with very, very creative strategies as well. If you're doing weird meme runs and stuff, it is also much more likely to get casted. But let us talk about these mutators a little bit. So we have Sharing and Scaring and Turkey Shoot. So let's start off with Turkey Shoot first. Turkey Shoot spawns these turkeys around the map, and whenever you kill them, you will build up supply cap. So do note, supply cap and not supply, but whenever you kill these, you need to kill these things to actually get your supply built up and being able to build up more units. And one thing to note is if you kill a turkey and his buddies are next to him, and he sees him, and his buddies see him die, they'll get mad at you and they will attack you. So it adds a little bit more humor to the mutation. Now, that is how the Turkey Shoot mutator works. And with Sharing and Scaring, basically your supply caps are shared. So ideally what will happen is you and your ally are going to be sharing your supply, and both you and your ally need to be killing turkeys to raise the supply cap. And the supply cap will eventually drop depending on the supply that is currently used. It's kind of like an upkeep. So the higher you're currently using, the higher supply that is currently being used, then the higher the supply cap will drop. So you can see over here, this turkey now is mad. It becomes an angry turkey as his Diamondback is going to go in and be killing some of these units off. So obviously, when you're playing this mutation, you kind of do not want to pick commanders that rely on like high supply armies to be effective. Armies which can get away with a low supply but have high damage output tend to work really well. And over here, for example, Alrak, he needs something like, he saturates his expansion, and he basically gets like 10 ascendants, and he can basically delete trains very, very effectively with those ascendants, warping in supplicants and then instantly sacrificing them so as to not consume the supply that's available to him, and he tends to work really well. And other than that, commanders who have static defense as well tend to work really nicely. Karax on this mission, I think even P1 Karax might work amazingly well, but beware that these turkeys are really, really nasty when it comes to dealing with structures. They are able to completely melt structures out. You can see over here, these two turkeys have been pecking through, and they just deal so much damage to structures. Yeah, they deal 16 damage to structures. So keep that in mind when you are playing this mutation. So Stukov is going to go ahead, use his Diamondback to clear this out. He's not really too worried about the train. He has the Apocalypse, he has the Alexander, both are ready. And we also have, interestingly enough, 2 infested armories coming down and an infested barracks. Now ideally you usually only want to build 1 infested armory, but in this mission maybe Stukov is not really interested in supply capping his army. So in that case he can actually use the extra resources to invest into armor upgrades here, which is I think what he's going to be trying to do. One other thing you can also do is put down static defense, and static defense works really nicely against the Turkey Shoot mutator. You can put down static defense and attack a turkey, and then all the other turkeys get mad at you and they will start to attack you, but because they are now hostile, your 1 static defense can actually start farming supply for you automatically, especially as the turkey spawn goes up. So that's actually really, really nice as well. Diamondbacks will be clearing out this train Apocalypse on the southern side to deal with this attack wave. And there'll be another attack wave which the Diamondbacks will be able to intercept. What do we have in production? Yeah, just another infested armory on the way. So all in all, Stukov doing really well over here, and you'll see that there are a lot of turkeys that have spawned, and this is one of the things that happens with the turkey shoot mutator, is that whenever you kill a train off, turkeys will spawn, and in the later course of the mission, you will get infested turkeys spawning, and those things you really want to make sure it does not reach your base, otherwise they will delete your base so fast. You have to be a little bit careful. And I think there's one train, I can't remember which train it is, it'll spawn the Turking, which in itself is a huge turkey, and it has an ability which fears your army. And I'll talk about that just a little bit whenever we see these things spawning. Over here we have a few idle SCVs, not really doing very much here for Stukov, but again, Stukov not really hurting on the mineral count, but those SCVs, someone kind of confused, they'll need to go and start mining. But Stukov has his barracks right down here. Actually, interestingly enough, he's using the barracks. I think his plan now is to infest the barracks and use that as just extra damage output, because unit-wise, he only has 3 Diamondbacks out, and he's sitting at 166 supply, so he's doing okay right now. But let's see what the plan is. We have another infested factory on the way. Yeah, 4 more Diamondbacks coming out, and in production, we have automated mitosis. Okay, so he's gonna go for the siege tank upgrades, which is also really nice. Attack wave composition is ravaging infestation, so it's purely a ground composition, and the siege tanks just do amazingly well against ground compositions. And now we have the Alexander here to stall this attack wave or the escort wave, and while the Diamondbacks deal a little bit more damage to this train. So this train is pretty much going to get taken care of with the help of the Alexander. I think in that time, Stukov is going to have a good number of siege tanks also ready to deal with the subsequent trains. Because once you start getting the double pronged attack waves and double trains, it does get a little bit more difficult to handle. But this train is going to be taken out by Stukov, and he's just going for upgrade after upgrade, doing really well on the upgrades right now. Level 1 attack upgrades. He has second armory over here. I'm not sure what the goal of this armory is so far, but because these armories are out now, the secondary upgrades for the Diamondbacks and the siege tanks will be out as well. Yeah, lots of turkeys. The Diamondback instantly attacks here. All these turkeys start to aggro these Diamondbacks, and they're going to walk right into the slime trail, and these Diamondbacks now are going to be clearing up all of this, and you can see 280 supply available for Stukov. I think the cap on this mutation is 400, I think. I think you camp out at 400 supply, and you can't really go any higher than that. So one of the other things to also be aware is, you really do not want to be accidentally killing turkeys when you're close to the 300 supply cap, because when you do to the 400 supply cap, otherwise you are just going to be wasting turkeys. And remember, there are a lot of turkeys that spawn, and if you're not really using all that supply, the rate of supply drop actually is actually not that high. So this rate at which your supply cap falls is depending on how much supply you're actually utilizing. So the smaller your army, the better it is. And one thing to also, I think I forgot to mention this, is if the supply cap drops below the supply that is being utilized, random units will take damage. If you are more interested, StarcraftCoop.com's Mutators page will explain to you the exact mechanics of how units are selected for taking damage. It's basically random, and how much damage it takes I cannot remember off the top of my head. If you're interested, you can look up the Mutators page on StarcraftCoop.com, and it'll give you all the information you need. Just note that you do not want your supply camp to be lower than your supply, otherwise your units will start taking damage, and it is just not a very pleasant experience. Over here, these Diamondbacks are going to be doing really well, and now we have infested turkey spawn. These things, look at the damage. They deal no damage to units. They deal 70 damage to structures. So if you have nothing to deal with these things, imagine what will happen if these things actually get to your base. Your base is gone. 70 damage to structures from the infested turkeys, and do also note that when you kill infested turkeys, they do not give you supply. So they do not raise your supply camp, so those things are purely an aggressive thing that is made to make the player's life a little bit more difficult. But the Diamondbacks are going to go ahead, and they're going to go and intercept this next bonus train. There is another attack wave on the way over here. A few siege tanks, so these siege tanks should be able to get a little bit of vision, and as soon as they start firing their shells off, they will get vision of the rest of the attack wave, so they'll be able to clear this out. Diamondbacks clearing out the bonus objective train, really nicely handled over there, and now these siege tanks are actually not in position, and this attack wave is going to start making its way towards the player's expansion. But there's a very nice infest structure that gets used over here. Some of these siege tanks could actually be deep tunneled across here, but I think Stukov wants to maintain this high ground advantage. He wants to get these huge tanks into position because this next train is coming up, and this next train wave is actually pretty nasty. So Stukov right now sitting at the supply cap of 270, doing pretty well for himself, sitting at 140 supply utilized, so he's going to be consuming some of the supply reasonably quickly. Overseer gets blasted out of the sky by some of these Hydralisks over here. Yeah, siege tanks now jumping a little bit forward just to try and get a little bit more vision of this attack wave. But this attack wave has a lot of Ultralisks and a lot of really tanky units here, but these siege tanks should be able to make short work of this, and the Ultralisks also getting slowed down by the Diamondback Slime Trail. And now, I think most of it is clear, but these Diamondbacks might actually get bungled by the Infestor, which is what exactly happened over here. But siege tanks standing strong, they're able to clear out this first train. On the southern side, again, some more siege tanks over here as well, really nicely repositioning all the siege tanks. They're going to be shelling from the high ground, and the Alexander gets used as well, with the Apocalypse as well, just to provide extra damage output for this. And you know what? I do not blame Stukov for doing that. The escort waves for these trains are actually really tough to deal with, so using your call downs is probably the best, especially when it's being spent on something like this. And Stukov is sitting at about 290 supply right now, and I think this train will also end up going down. I think this train will also create a few more turkeys for Stukov, and now this is where he has to be a little bit careful. You really do not want all your you really do not want to be supply capping so fast. And 390, 392, I think a little bit supply might get wasted over here. Yeah, so Stukov has capped out at 400 supply and killing off some more of those turkeys. But is, yeah, I think maybe a few supply was wasted from the turkeys over there, but not really too big of an issue. The supply will start dropping as Stukov raises and increases the size of his army, using a few Diamondbacks from the attack wave that has come up on the northern side, trying to dodge that Infestor. Very nice dodge on the Infestor. Only a few Diamondbacks do get trapped over here, but the siege tanks doing a lot of work. And one thing to also note that is really important to have is the automated mitosis upgrade for the siege tanks. This makes them very effective at replenishing their ammo counts, so do keep that in mind. Very important to have. And yeah, overall very well handled by Stukov. And now the little train has spawned and will be making its way towards the Diamondbacks here. And there are a lot of siege tanks over here, so those siege tanks are going to be doing really well. And there are a few siege tanks over here as well. And yeah, Stukov doing very well for himself, and in production, pretty much nothing else coming up. He's going for his armor upgrades. He really does not want to go, he's not going above the 130 supply, because I think he's pretty much realized that he doesn't really need that extra supply. Just a few siege tanks, just a few Diamondbacks, and that's more than enough damage output to deal with all the trains on this mission. So it's a very nice optimization. It's a very nice optimization made by Stukov. And remember, the reason why you do not want to go above a certain supply is because when you start going above that, your supply starts dropping a lot faster. So the lower the supply you're using, the lower your supply cap, or the slower your supply cap drops, which makes the mission a little bit easier. And you can easily cap out at 300 supply here, but your supply is going to be dropping so fast, and your units are going to be taking a lot of damage. So Stukov has basically banked up all the resources. We have infested turkeys. Again, like I said, 70 damage to structures, and they have 2 weapon speed, 6 range. These things absolutely melt structures so fast, and it is a very unpleasant experience. If you have not lost a game of foul play to infested turkeys, I highly recommend you try losing to one. It is surprising and very terrifying how fast your base just gets deleted by these turkeys. And if you're not paying attention, you'll take a look at your base and you'll realize that half your base is gone. And by the time you actually reposition your army, the rest of your base is cleared. So be careful with these infested turkeys. They are ridiculously nasty. And yeah, overall, really well handled over here. Siege tanks on the high ground, dealing a lot of damage to this ground composition. And volatile infestors as well. One thing you can do when you are playing siege tank kind of build is to build an engineering bay and get the attack upgrades in the engineering bay, because you can see over here Stukov is not really hurting for gas, and he also has a double armory and he's going for his his armor upgrades. So one thing Stukov can do is actually go for the attack upgrades in the engineering bay, because they affect the damage that is dealt by the volatile and infested that are fired from the siege tanks. So you can get a little bit of extra damage over here. You can see over here the volatile burst only zero attack upgrades, but these things can be upgraded from the attack upgrades in the engineering base. There's something else that it's just a little optimization that can be made there. But we have the Apocalypse spawning, and there's again a double train wave. But this time, Stukov's army is going to be a lot larger and a lot stronger than it was, so he's going to be able to clear this out, and supply is dropping a little bit right now. Stukov sitting at 200 supply utilization right now, so first train does end up going down, and he's going to start pushing into this side. Uses the Alexander as well to start dealing with this escort wave here. It's a very annoying wave to deal with, and now he's going to start focusing down this train, and now we have the Turking that is coming up here. So this is the Turking. There is a big ping marker on the map, and this guy is making its way toward this one is a problem to deal with, because you need a lot of high attack range units, because it just fears everything, and this Turking is just making its way towards the expanse. So there we go. This is the Turking. It deals 250 damage and deals 500 damage to structures, and this is what he does. He goes, ah, and then he starts fearing everything around him. Ridiculously annoying. Where is this guy? I can't even click him. I'm trying to click the Turking so I can actually show it to you. There we go. So 250 damage, 500 to structures, and now these SCVs are just one-shotting the SCVs one after another. Finally, the siege tanks have got into position. He goes, ah, again, and everything is feared. But eventually, the Diamondbacks are going to end up killing off all this Turking over here. There's another attack wave now, but actually very nice positioning on siege tanks, so that should be able to keep these things. This is my favorite mutation, by the way, if it's not obvious already. This is my favorite weekly mutation. It is so fun. It is so funny, like how the seriousness of the game just gets broken because you're really trying to kill turkeys and they're mad at you and they start attacking you because you killed their friend. It is just so funny. And more turkeys mad over here. So yeah, Stukov's got a cap out of the 400 supply. He's pretty much set. That was the double train wave dealt with. So there's one more train to clear out, and that is pretty much it for Stukov. He does have a good number of siege tanks already ready. He's repositioning the siege tanks as well. Few more turkeys over here, and Stukov is going to get into the lower ground here. More turkeys here, and now Stukov is actually capped out of the 400 supply. There are so many turkeys around here, and now Stukov has to be a little bit careful here. There are a lot of hybrids, a lot of angry ultralists over here, and those siege tanks providing really good cover fire for the Diamondbacks, and now these Diamondbacks should be able to clear out the train by themselves, but again, he's getting flanked by another attack wave. I think this train is pretty much a goner before the attack wave gets into position. These Diamondbacks doing a good amount of damage, and notice how the Diamondbacks are also moving back and forth also on the train, and this one will deal more damage through the slime trail upgrade. Yes, Stukov is going to be able to deal with this train without really having to deal with this attack wave. The attack wave has pretty much nothing against Stukov's army and his siege tanks, but yeah, that is pretty much it. That is all the trains done, and the bonuses, and that is GG.